Welcome back everyone to more Persona 5 Royal with my extended thoughts on the plot. I already did one of these videos for vanilla Persona 5, but as you can tell by the length of this video, I have a lot to say about Royal's new story content, and I was never really pleased with how the first extended thoughts video came out. I went in completely unscripted, and I've always thought it came out a bit sloppy, so I've wanted to give this another go for some time. I've written a script now so I can share my thoughts more cohesively. I think this is going to be the last of the extended thoughts videos for quite some time though, because I don't see myself giving Persona 1 and 2 the same treatment. I recently completed the original Persona, well, the Sebek route anyway, and I honestly don't have a lot to say about that game's story. However, I've yet to go through the Snow Queen route at this time, and I haven't finished the Persona 2 duology yet, so who knows, I may have more to say than I figured. But I get the feeling that the next time I'll be doing an extended thoughts video after this would be whenever Persona 6 is a thing. Same as usual, this is the spoiler corner, and we're gonna talk about everything, so if you haven't finished Persona 5 Royal yet, now's the time to switch the video off. All good? Cool, let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is a slight mistake I made in the original extended thoughts video. It was very late in the game where Joker gets arrested at the casino and thrown into the interrogation room. Akechi then comes in and reveals himself to be the traitor that sold Joker out and proceeds to shoot him. This later turns out to have been Sae's cognitive version of Joker that Akechi killed, and it seems that the Phantom Thieves knew Akechi would betray them, so they put together this complicated plan to convince Sae that he's the villain and should break Joker out of jail. The plan itself seems pretty solid. I can't think of any holes aside from being extremely lucky. Sae needed to hand Joker's phone over to Akechi so that Futaba can use the tracker on Akechi to activate the metaverse, where the interrogation room looks exactly the same, including where Joker was sitting. Okay, fair enough, but what I wasn't sure of in the original video was how even though Sae technically went into the metaverse, why was she still not able to understand Morgana? Well, it turns out they actually do explain that, though it goes by so quickly you probably wouldn't notice. In fact, I can't even pinpoint where in the game they tell you. It took me about 4 playthroughs to finally figure it out. Apparently, not only do you have to be in the metaverse, but you also need to have seen Morgana speak while in the metaverse so that your mind is used to hearing him talk by the time you get back to the real world. A bit of a stretch if you ask me, and a needless amount of rules, but I guess I can buy it. Not much more to say except I got it wrong, but now I understand. I also mentioned that I wasn't sure of how Haru got inside the metaverse and donned her musketeer outfit, but that's explained too, and I really don't know how I missed it. Morgana walks away sulking after fighting with the Phantom Thieves and attempts to clear Okumura's palace on his own, but Haru notices him walking around and decides to follow him. Since the metanav can draw people in from a close distance, that's why Haru got dragged and found Morgana, as also shown with An at the beginning of the game. It was a stupid mistake I made and I apologize for that. I think that's all I have to fix from my original extended thoughts video, so we'll move on to the new stuff Royal brings to the table. Let's start with a fascinatingly awful Okumura fight. Jesus Christ, this really was bad. Now, before I get into all that, I should mention that Royal introduces Okumura's cognitive version of Haru, which I wasn't expecting. It was asked in vanilla Persona 5 as to whether or not she existed, but it was sort of left a mystery, one that may not have had a pretty answer. So to actually see a cognitive Haru in the flesh was a cool little surprise, but that's as much praise as I'll give to the actual fight. It's the same deal as before, a gauntlet of enemies you need to kill before you reach Okumura himself, but this time you have to make sure every enemy in the group dies within a couple of turns, otherwise they'll run away and come back with full health, forcing you to start over. Each group of robots has different weaknesses as well, so having a specific persona list and or the ability to switch party members during battle is almost a necessity. That's bad enough, but not helping is that Okumura also boosts one of the enemy's defense stat, making it harder to kill all of the enemies at once. He'll have his drones target individual party members so that they die incredibly easily, even with highly ranked confidant abilities that have them endure attacks. After dealing with all groups of enemies, you then have to take down the executive director robot like before, and then as a new addition, the cognitive Haru turns herself into a deadly robot, so you either have to take her out or guard her explosion as she self-destructs, before finally getting one last hit on Okumura. On top of all this, you have a damn time limit to worry about too. 30 minutes sounds like a lot of time, and in the original it was, but in Royal, god no. You have to make every second count. I found the best method was to knock down all but one foe separately using consumable items or natural skills, baton pass to as many party members as I could, and use multi-target skills on the last robot standing so that you have a one more to attack again with that same skill. Even after all that though, I barely managed to beat the boss with less than 3 minutes to spare, and my brother Jude, who was playing the game the same time as me, had less than 10 seconds left before finishing the fight, and that was after skipping every dialogue because heaven forbid the clock stops ticking while while the cutscene plays. This was hands down one of the worst Persona bosses I've ever done. Hell, one of the worst boss fights, period. I'd still say a couple of the Q2 bosses just ever so slightly beat it, but holy shit, this was right up there. I'm glad I didn't cave in and switch from hard to normal during this fight, but it's a big blemish on an otherwise incredible game. You know what, the end of Shido's fight was pretty annoying too. He removes all of your party members from the battle so that it's a one-on-one duel with Joker, which unless you're prepared for, he may end up killing you a couple of times. I still got him, but that may have just been luck in making sure to vary my current Persona arsenal. I don't know what's worse though, that or having the Wakaba fight feel as if you're barely doing any of the work. The original battle wasn't that great either, definitely one of the more scripted bosses in the game, but something about Royal's version seemed even more scripted to me. A real shame. At least we do get a few of the game's coolest anime cutscenes during those moments, especially Shido's calling card. God, that's still such an amazing scene. So Shido is defeated and confesses his crimes to the public, although nobody seems to be bothered about it and not only still want him to be Prime Minister, but are forgetting about the Phantom Thieves as well. It's as if the general public has some distorted desire, to which Morgana believes that getting rid of Mementos should help them come to their senses. The Phantom Thieves head down to the deepest part of Mementos and meet the Holy Grail, which they can't seem to defeat because of the masses' praise. The Holy Grail has been manipulating the public's thoughts so that they don't have to think for themselves in order to be happy. As well as that, Memento seems to be fusing with the real world to expand the Holy Grail's powers. The Phantom Thieves disappear, Joker is imprisoned once more inside the Velvet Room, but the twins come to the realization that they used to be one, to which Joker helps fuse them together and become Lavenza, who actually has her own optional fight in Royal now. The Igor that's been assisting all this time in the Velvet Room is also not who he says he is, but rather the Holy Grail taken a different form, who temporarily escapes to continue merging Mementos with Earth. There's some moping around with the Phantom Thieves who are found inside the Velvet Room, and you have to cheer them up one at a time, something that could have also been cut in Royal, honestly, because we know they're gonna feel better anyway. The real Igor comes back, and Morgana also turns out to be a creation of him meant to help Joker. The Holy Grail had pitted two potential candidates against each other to decide the fate of the world, one being Akechi, who wished to bring chaos and destruction, reshaping the world in his own image, and Joker, who would oppose that with his power of the wild card. The Phantom Thieves make it to the Holy Grail, who eventually reveals his true form, an unruly god named Yaldabaoth. The battle, surprisingly, is the only one in the game that doesn't play any differently. It's the exact same fight as the original Persona 5. I'm not sure why that is, but anyway, after lowering all of his health, Joker summons Satanael to deliver the final blow thanks to the prayers of the masses, who are no longer brainwashed and more people are giving support to the Phantom Thieves. So, all's well that ends well. I'm sure you remember how the ending goes. Despite his efforts, Sai asks Joker to turn himself to the police to help testify against Shido. Still sucks big time, but it's pretty brave of Joker. Wait, Akechi's alive and well in Royal. Yeah, he's still meant to be killed off after the fight in Shido's palace, and he says he's willing to take the fall for Joker. Cool, I guess that means Joker doesn't need to go to jail and we can have a proper Christmas date this time with your girlfriend of choice. Oh, and we actually get to spend Christmas with your friends now. This is great. However, things also start getting pretty crazy from here. New Year's Day arrives, Joker meets up with Kasumi, and they happen to run into everyone else at the same time, but your team starts to say very strange things, like how Futaba is going to be spending time with her deceased mother, Wakaba, and how Haru has plans with her deceased father. Something also seems off when you meet Kasumi's dad and some sort of glitch occurs, but both Kasumi and Joker decide to sleep on it. Upon waking up though, Joker is disturbed by this other man who he doesn't seem to know at first, but not only is it true that Wakaba and Okumura are still alive, but the man also seems to be a humanized Morgana. Akechi then randomly appears asking Joker for a little talk, and he explains how on top of everything else we've seen, the police just let Akechi go, free of all charges, which even he admits shouldn't have happened. In the middle of this conversation, Kasumi calls Joker, telling him that a palace has appeared by a stadium being constructed in Odaiba. Because the three of them seem to be the only ones not affected by these bizarre phenomenons, they enter the palace all by themselves and discover that it belongs to none other than Dr. Maruki, the school counselor. Not even a shadow version of him, but the real deal, who has gained the power to alter reality, fulfilling his wish of granting everyone's wishes for a happier life. We then get another bombshell immediately afterwards where Kasumi isn't Kasumi at all. She's actually her sister, Sumire. Kasumi mentioned a few times beforehand that she had a sister who died in a car accident, but it's not until this point in the game that we learn the truth. That being, Kasumi was the one who died in the accident while Sumire is stuck with the guilt. since she was running away from Kasumi after feeling like she'll never live up to her sister's golden standards as a gymnast, which explains why she was pushed so hard at school. Kasumi shoved Sumire out of the way before the car made the impact, and ever since that day, after speaking with Maruki about it, he altered Sumire's reality so that she thinks she's really Kasumi, free of the shame and guilt. Back in the palace, Sumire breaks down again after coming to this realization, and Maruki uses this opportunity to take her away and try to change her back into Kasumi. It's funny, I didn't expect Maruki to be the palace's ruler, but as soon as I saw it was him, I was like, oh, dumbass, of course it'd be him. The clues were right there. Maruki as an antagonist is a rather interesting one. Not amazing per se, but certainly interesting. Yaldabaoth may no longer be the final boss of the game, but there are a lot more good things than bad things about it. On the one hand, yes, this does make Yaldabaoth seem like a much lesser villain this time around, with his replacement being just some normal dude with supernatural powers. On the other hand though, since practically every Persona game ends with some sort of god waggling their finger saying humanity sucks and trying to force a do-over in some way, the fact that the ultimate bad guy in Royal is just a normal dude with supernatural powers honestly makes it pretty refreshing. Helping that is how Maruki legitimately wants to help people, unlike in the other games where the villains want to wipe out all existence or brainwash them for all eternity. Altering reality to make people happy has a lot of pros and cons, but there's fundamentally no right or wrong answer in doing so. Maruki even says out loud to Joker and Akechi that he has no ill will towards them, and is prepared to help them with their lives as well, despite the two disagreeing with his methods. Everyone has the right to feel happy, and what Maruki's doing isn't necessarily evil. However, similar to Yaldabaoth, Maruki's reality altering is also robbing people of their free will, not allowing them to make their own mistakes and learn from them, which as a result doesn't help them grow as people. So in the end, Joker and Akechi still think they should stop Maruki. In a way, I'd consider Maruki to be a much more humble and sympathetic villain than someone like Yaldabaoth. Actually, even calling him a villain is entirely debatable, which I would much rather have than yet another god looking to destroy the world, especially since it's coming off the heels of Persona Q2 that had a less than substandard antagonist in my opinion. Maruki gives them a week to decide on his offer anyway and see how it's affected their teammates, taking Sumire with him. Joker takes this time to check on how everybody's doing in this new life, and as expected, they're all extremely happy with it, but speaking with Joker causes them to regain a memory of their time as the Phantom Thieves, which makes them question what's real or not. I don't know why it takes a whole in-game day to speak to one person, and this can get kind of tedious, but I think I'd still take this than cheering everyone up in the Velvet Room like before. Meanwhile, Joker and Akechi go to face Maruki again with the option to accept his reality or tell him to piss off, both of them resulting in pretty much how you'd expect it to. Declining the offer puts you in a battle against Sumire and her persona Cendrillon, hell-bent on staying as Kasumi, and eventually the other Phantom Thieves arrive to help after coming to their senses. That was a really awesome moment, by the way, top-notch entrance. Sumire is beaten and Maruki gives them 1 month to think over his offer once more, even though they made it pretty damn clear they're not sticking with his reality. Oh well, you get more time to raise confidants anyway, including Sumire, who's a new romance option too, although it's so late in the game now that you only get 2 dates with her in the story. I chose to do so during my second playthrough, and they were really sweet scenes. I just would have liked to have more opportunities. Sumire's not as upbeat as when she was Kasumi, but she's still pleasant to have around. The Phantom Thieves' second evolution of personas can be acquired at this time as well, which I already covered in my review. You can only get them out after maxing each of their confidants, and it's the same sort of scene every time, but the personas themselves are more than worth it. On top of this, from here onwards, we finally get to keep Sumire as a party member. Yeah, despite her being in all of the game's advertisements as this awesome new recruit, she doesn't stay in your party until the very last palace. This annoyed me so much, and it's something you can flat out miss too if you didn't meet the requirements to access this new chapter. I bonded with Kasumi, Akechi, and Maruki anyway because they were all new confidants, but if I didn't know that, I probably wouldn't have bothered too much. I feel sorry for those people who bought the expensive DLC costume pack for Sumire as well, only to find out that you can't use it until near the end of the game. What a freaking ripoff. I get it's to stay in context with the story, but maybe if Atlas didn't show Sumire off in the trailer so much, this wouldn't be a problem. Right, let's stay on track. Before you actually start all of this, Lavenza summons the Phantom Thieves to the nurse's office in school, explaining how Maruki got his powers. He managed to awaken to his very own persona, and while Yaldabaoth was out of commission thanks to the Phantom Thieves, Maruki decided to take his place. That's it? That seems ridiculously simple for a game that likes to add more and more rules about how the metaverse works. Come to think of it, at what point did Maruki realize he had a palace? We know it was there before he awakened to his persona because we stepped in during the Okumura incident. And what happened to his shadow? Does he not have one? My only theory is that it's like Futaba's, where hers became a persona. Was that the case with Maruki's too? I think we needed a couple of extra scenes to get some further clarity on this. It just seems odd to throw out all of these details they've been establishing up to now with no explanation. It's not a bigger part of the picture at the end of the day, and Maruki's a great antagonist regardless, but I would have liked at least something. If there's one thing that does make up for it though, it's Akechi during this part of the game. Now that he's confessed to the killings, he's allowed to unleash his evil demeanor, and it is glorious. His taunts and insults towards both the Phantom Thieves and the Shadows is utterly hilarious. Evil Akechi is freaking amazing. He even has a much better story arc this time. Vanilla Persona 5 had him reveal his backstory at basically the last minute just before he died, talking about how Shido manipulated him and never showed him any love, so Akechi did the dirty work to seek Shido's approval. Which sucks, but dude, you still killed a lot of people. It's tough to give any sympathy points when you go and commit several murders, and it's always bothered me how quickly the Phantom Thieves do so. However, in Royal, Akechi understands that if Maruki is defeated, then he'll remain dead once reality returns to normal, leaving behind the life he can never have but not ruled under someone's thumb. He's only helping for his own sake again, but it's a little bit more relatable this time. No one likes being a puppet, and that's exactly what would happen if Maruki controlled his life. So why should Akechi have to put up with that? It's a perfectly valid reason, and while it still doesn't excuse Akechi's crimes, helping return the world to normal is certainly a step in the right path towards redemption. Bravo to Atlas overall for much improving Akechi. So at this point in the game, you just need to travel through the new final tier of mementos, and lastly Maruki's palace, finding a route to his treasure. I already explained how I felt about the palace in the review. I thought it was a nice inclusion with some clever ideas, but the middle part dragged a little, and it's kinda pointless if you do get the wrong answer, because the enemies that ambush you aren't that difficult to deal with. This is also where, after collecting enough stamps in mementos, you can battle Jose to allow him to vent and see if that'll help him find more answers about humans. It's not too difficult of a fight, he's probably the easiest out of the optional bosses. After beating Jose, he says that he now knows even less about humans and may never will, but that's not really a bad thing. He further explains though that his purpose for researching humans was based on a promise he made to someone, but he doesn't say who, adding even more mystery to his existence. This is the last bit of information we receive about Jose before finishing the game. I don't know if this is to tease future games and perhaps Jose may be a reoccurring character from now on, but it's definitely weird to just have things stop with his character arc. The clues are there, but nothing amounts to it. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Maybe he'll come back and scramble, I don't know, I'm just spitballing. Moving on anyway, as for the other optional bosses, aside from the Reaper, you get to battle the twins again during New Game Plus, not acting any differently than before, and Yoshitsune being an absolute godsend. I managed to beat them after a couple of tries, and what I also didn't find out until finishing the game was that New Game Plus has another new optional boss against Lavenza. This fight is without a doubt the hardest in the game. My party was at level 99 and my Persona Compendium was at 100%, but she still kicked my ass. There are 4 phases to this fight. The first one is fairly straightforward. You just need to inflict, I think, 5,000 damage in a set amount of turns before Lavenza immediately ends the battle with an all-out attack. Okay, not too much of a problem so far. During the second phase, however, you're supposed to know to inflict her with ailments and do technical damage, and again, if you fail to do either of those things, she'll win the battle by default. Then comes the third phase, my least favorite one, because you have to knock Lavenza down every single turn, and if you fail to do so even once, you guessed it, automatic game over. The reason I hate this phase so much is that since Lavenza doesn't have any weaknesses, you have to rely on landing critical hits to topple her, which all comes down to luck. I had to put Samira in my party the entire time because she has the best chance of actually pulling it off, and can increase her allies' critical rate with her evolved persona. This phase sucked really hard. Luckily, the fourth and final phase doesn't have any specific requirements to meet. It's a normal battle from here on out, but Lavenza will still throw everything she has at you. I was on hard mode throughout the battle, so I don't know how much easier it is on the normal difficulty, but after many attempts, I finally got her. That was a very proud moment for me. My best team was Ryuji, An, and Sumire, with An having fire break so I could unleash a concentrated blazing hell on Lavenza. Alright, so with that out of the way, we now come to the final battle with Maruki after refusing his offer yet again. The new song, I Believe, starts playing as the Phantom Thieves climb a large set of stairs towards Maruki himself. A truly epic setup. Maruki waits at the very top, not allowing the Phantom Thieves to stop him, so he has no choice but to defend himself by summoning his persona Azathoth, and then he... What is with that outfit? Tight gold suit, short cape, and a taller than necessary mask? All of the ingredients for one of the goofiest looking attire in a Persona game. I think Shido still slightly beats him. You can't top silly Emperor gear followed by a beefed out politician, but Maruki's pretty close. If he wasn't such an intriguing character, I wouldn't have taken him seriously at all. Whew, okay, that aside, the final boss itself, while not an incredible fight, is a rather unique one. You're supposed to aim for Azathoth, who's protecting Maruki, but the tentacles Azathoth creates provide him extremely great defense, so you also need to get rid of as many of those as you can. The more tentacles you clear, the lower Azathoth's defense will be. I like how this battle accommodates for you being at level 99, since the game probably assumes you've been using Ryuji's insta-kill ability while traveling in Mementos. Although again, I'm basing this on the hard difficulty, I could be totally wrong about normal. I also thought it was a pretty cool touch with how, depending on who you have in your party, Maruki will quickly talk to each member personally to try and come to his side, but they always decline and tell him that they'll choose their own path. This gives a little more character to not only Maruki, but the Phantom Thieves as well, seeing how far they've come. After Maruki's defeated, his treasure is revealed to be a torch that was passed on to him. You get it? You get it? Anyway, the Phantom Thieves make their way out of the palace, but Maruki's not quite through with them yet, stealing back the treasure. You beat his ass again without his persona to back him up, but Azathoth's evolution is already completed, now becoming Adam Kadmon, with Maruki allowing himself to be taken over by his own persona, combining both of their abilities together. Holy hell, this thing is ginormous. I bet I'm gonna have to use all that I've learned to take this guy down. Oh geez, I can't even make a dent on Adam Kadmon. How am I going to defeat this thing? Oh, it's an entirely scripted battle. Guard his attacks, heal, and maybe hit him a few times until Futaba figures out the head is his weakness. Okay, I'm sure we could have deduced that already, but we can at least have a proper fight now, yeah? Nope, it's all done in a cutscene. The Phantom Thieves use their powers to push Adam Kadmon away, Joker grapples onto him while he's distracted and shoots him right in the freaking face. A tremendous sight to behold, but is that really it? You built up this huge beast of a persona to face only to go down just like that? A touch anticlimactic, don't you think? Well, after that, the palace begins to crumble, but there's no exit within reach, so Morgana transforms himself into a helicopter to fly them away. How unbelievably convenient. I know Morgana says that even he didn't know he had this ability, but seriously? We're at the very end of the game and only now they introduced that to us? Again, it's a cool scene, but damn, that could have been useful way earlier. No matter, Maruki cuts the flight short, but Joker decides to take him on himself. They pummel each other for a little bit before Maruki accepts his death. Everyone returns to the real world with neither Maruki, Akechi, or Joker in plain view, but that means they're back in their normal reality. Joker is back in prison to provide a testimony against Shido, and the days pass before he's released. Valentine's Day dates occur, and there's the new White Day date afterwards, both being very cute scenes. But then the time finally comes for Joker to go back home. Oh boy, we're at this point now, aren't we? The ending. Royal's true ending is no longer the happy-go-lucky one we had in the original, where the Phantom Thieves remove the battery from the police car, keeping tabs on Joker, and they all ride off into the sunset before Joker returns home, hanging out one last time. What we've got instead is everyone suddenly announcing their plans for moving forward, effective immediately, which means they're all going to be separated for who knows how long. Ryuji is moving away to get his leg fixed and join another track team, An's going to model abroad, Makoto and Haru are looking for a place together after graduation, Morgana's going to stay with Joker, Futaba's starting high school in Shujin, and Yusuke and Sumire are going to stay put and continue their passions. It's a big punch in the gut that I wasn't expecting, but all that matters is what's best for them. Sometimes you have to let your best friends go. The day of Joker's departure arrives and he coincidentally meets up with everyone, same as the original, but they're now only going to see him off at the train station while they try and shake off the cops. Helping them with that is Maruki, appearing right the hell out of nowhere, still kicking and now working as a taxi driver, offering to drop Joker off in secret. Temporarily losing the police, the other Phantom Thieves keep the goodbyes short to make sure they're not followed, and then they drive away again. Joker gets ready to board the train and comes across Sumire, who gives an even quicker goodbye. Like one small sentence and 2 words, that's it. What the hell? The train leaves and the post-credit scene hints that Akechi might still be alive after all, and the Phantom Thieves may not be finished with their work yet. I hear a lot of people say this is supposed to be a cliffhanger leading to Persona 5 Scramble, which takes place after Persona 5, but I believe it's meant to be after vanilla Persona 5 and not Royal. We can't say for sure yet anyway, only time will tell. Okay, so this new ending has some very split opinions between fans. Some quite like it, while others think it's terrible, and I can kinda see why for both sides. It's not nearly as heartwarming as the original ending, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw how Royal ended, I thought it was really hollow and a total slap in the face. But then the new credits music started playing, and it had a sad but also kind of happy feeling to it, which made me think, oh wait, maybe that was meant to be the point. While this ending may not be as cheery as vanilla Persona 5's, it could be seen as more realistic. We've all likely had to go through something similar to this. You've built a great friendship with someone or a whole group of people, but there comes a time where you have to say goodbye, and for some reason it doesn't faze you a great deal. It's a mixture of emotions that can't be pinpointed to just one, much like this ending. You don't know whether to feel happy, angry, sad, or anything else because it's a complicated situation. If the other Phantom Thieves didn't explain how they're going to be working towards their goals, then having the ending be so abrupt wouldn't have made sense. But unfortunately, hurdles like that do exist in life. You just have to deal with it, but that doesn't mean the friendships you've formed are going to fade away. This is even told during the credits song if you read the English lyrics. Many players associated with Akechi, but I don't know, I always thought it applied to all of the Phantom Thieves, not just Akechi. So overall, yes, I do prefer the original ending, but I also like this ending for being less fantasized. It's more of a thinker and a very risky move that not everyone's going to appreciate, but I commend Atlus for going through with it anyway. The only legitimate complaint I have with the new ending is why was Sumires farewell so freaking brief? You'd figure after all she's done for Joker and all Joker's done for Sumire that it'd be a more heartfelt goodbye, but no. Just a take care and then off she goes. It's even worse if he decided to date her like I did in my second playthrough. How did they screw this up? That was the only time I knew how to feel, and that was frustrated. Okay folks, I think that's finally all I have to say about Persona 5 Royal. It has a few downs, but it has so many ups. I haven't played anything else like it, and I probably never will again. I hope you guys understand why I love this game to death if you already didn't with my review. It's got so much creativity, complexity, and most importantly, heart. Not to say previous Persona games didn't have all of those things, but I think Persona 5 Royal is where they land the most. If you've managed to stick to the end of both videos, then congratulations, and I'm sorry for making them so long. I really appreciate you all stopping by and checking out my thoughts on various Persona games, and I hope you'll continue to do so when I talk about Persona 1, 2, and eventually Scramble. Thanks very much everyone. If you enjoyed these videos, please let me know, and I'll see you for the next review. Take care.